Hey folks, Nightshade here from Vivictus. This War Assets video will cover orbital strike usage. Let's get started. Orbital strikes are war assets available to outfits. While they may also be fired using orbital strike uplinks built at player bases, the limited range and long charge time change the economics somewhat, and as a result, this video will focus on the usage of outfit call-down orbital strikes. At the time of writing, orbital strikes cost 75 Cynthium, usually referred to as blue, and 15 polystellarite, usually referred to as purple. They take 15 minutes to craft and are limited to 2 per outfit, and take up 75 each of an outfit's 300 maximum armory weight. Additionally, only members with the Craft Reserved Assets permission may craft orbital strikes. Due to the difficulty of acquiring polystellarite, which can only be gathered from capturing the centermost base on a continent, the high weight of an orbital strike in the outfit armory, as well as the immediate and large-scale effectiveness on fights, orbital strikes are extremely valuable, and it is not uncommon for outfits to set specific policies regarding their use. In essence, orbital strikes' resource cost is enough to consider their use carefully, and most groups won't have more than a couple on hand at any given time. An orbital strike is used when an outfit member with the Use Reserved Assets permission right-clicks on the map and selects an orbital strike from the War Asset menu. After several seconds, a yellow 50-meter radius circle with a 10-meter inner radius will appear on the map as the orbital strike icon, and the orbital strike animation will begin. While the orbital strike is charging, it will deal minor damage, roughly 1 damage per second, to any player within the area. After a time period of roughly 10 seconds, the orbital strike will hit. The orbital strike deals just over 10,000 damage at the center of the beam. This damage falls off linearly to 0 over a radius of roughly 75 meters. In addition, knockback will be applied proportional to how near a player or object is to the center. Players under cover, that is, players with an obstruction above them blocking line of sight directly up to the sky, will receive the knockback as well as the EMP effect, but no direct damage, though they may sometimes still be killed by knockback even inside buildings. Vehicles, as well as maxes, will receive damage normally regardless of cover. Vehicles that survive the blast will also receive knockback unless the vehicle is deployed. In addition to the aforementioned effects, any player deployables in the area, such as turrets, hard light barriers, and routers, will be destroyed. Both Colossus tanks and deployment shield sunderers have resistance to orbital strikes that will allow them to survive, and Colossus tanks may also carry equipment granting immunity to the knockback effect even when not deployed. Notably, the Colossus shield does not get resistance to the orbital strike and takes full damage, separate from the Colossus itself. In essence, orbital strikes deal massive damage to vehicles and maxes, as well as players if they aren't under cover. Colossus tanks and shield sunderers, however, will survive. Due to the delay before firing, high knockback, and inability to damage infantry in cover, orbital strikes are often best thought of as an area denial weapon. Placing an orbital strike between an enemy source of reinforcements and a capture point denies that area to the enemy and creates a break in the flow of reinforcements. This also makes them a strong defensive tool. An orbital strike, placed to stop a max crash, or even placed on one's own unit, provided that unit is under cover, can kill maxes, scatter enemies, and force unprepared enemies to charge a gun line to get under cover before the orbital strike lands. Orbital Strike's ability to destroy player structures is also extremely useful for the destruction of routers, as an entrenched router will be destroyed regardless of any protection. Be aware that having multiple routers in reserve is uncommon but not unheard of, and as a result, an orbital strike can sometimes serve more as a break in a flow of reinforcements rather than completely severing a flow of reinforcements, similarly to the area denial use mentioned previously. Due to the limitations against cover and delay before firing, orbital strikes often struggle to be effective against enemy infantry deployed and entrenched on an objective. While the knockback and deployable destruction can be effective, the time required for attacking forces to reach the enemy to exploit the disruption is often much longer than the time required for defending forces to recover. In general, the greatest weakness of an orbital strike is the long delay involved in use. It takes between 10 and 15 seconds to deploy an orbital strike, and even under optimal conditions, it will usually take another 10 seconds to exploit the opening. Depending on base design, it may take up to 20 seconds or more to effectively utilize the strike. The end result is a gap 30 plus seconds long where the target is not under threat. As a result, orbital strikes used near the end of a base cap may defend the side holding the objective more than the side trying to retake the objective. In essence, orbital strikes delay before firing, and the difference in effectiveness against infantry in the open versus infantry in cover limits their effectiveness. So, to recap, orbital strikes cost a combination of blue and purple outfit resources that limit how often they can be used. When deployed, they deal massive damage to anything exposed to the sky and will deal massive knockback to anything in an area about half again the radius of the map icon itself. Orbital strikes are best used to deny area from the enemy or to destroy routers, and the delays involved with orbital strike use make them not ideal as a last-ditch weapon. That's all for orbital strikes. Nightshade out.